Welcome to this week's second edition of the Brandstand, where we help business leaders to understand how investing in their brand strategy can help them to grow their business. My name's Craig McVoy, I'm the founder of Beyond Brand, and I've been helping business leaders to stand out from their competition for over 20 years now, enabling them to attract more of their ideal customer and then keep them for longer. This week, we've been looking at employee engagement. And in this episode, we'll be talking about why remote engagement is here to stay and also what it is that you've got to do about that. Well, this remote environment that we now work in is going to be with us for some time. In fact, it's probably going to become the new norm for the next 6 months at least. So it's important that we take control and take care of those important components of working in this way. And the first of those is going to be about people's well-being, because people are going to be at home in very different environments from each other. Some people will be at home with their families in terms of their young children and their other halves, trying not to tear each other apart and also trying to extend their level of patience that they have. But there'll be others that are sat at home, living in their home alone, and they may not see anybody for days at a time. They may have only the interaction that they have in a work environment as their only piece of adult interaction, and they will have lots of time with themselves to worry and to think about how things are going on. So it's really important that the well-being of your staff is considered, and the relevancy to how they may be as an individual, not as a group, but as an individual. They'll all need to be managed as in their own circumstances. And it's important that their mental health is considered, and that the functionality and options that you give, whether that be through occupational health or support and guidance, are given to the individuals as an option for them to have an outage. They need a network and someone to be able to talk to. And they also need the tools to do the job in a remote environment. Sounds obvious, but they may not necessarily be doing workstation assessments sat at their desk or their dining room table or on their bed if they're using all sorts of different rooms to work in. So it's important that you take that into account as a responsible employer as well. And keeping the people motivated whilst they're in this mobile environment is really important too. So remember to check in on people, nurture and support them, and make sure that you make this something that's done on a regular basis. Set specific times to do this in. Be flexible with the individuals because they may be balancing lots of different things, but it's important that you're able to do this on a regular basis, and be a leader. Being remote does not give you any excuse for standing up and being a leader at these times, and do that in imaginative ways. There are many ways that are just a drop in a message to say hi or how are things, as well as using things like gifts in imaginative ways. Having things delivered to people will be the way of them having a surprise and having something nice that shows that you have got them on their mind. So whether that is team environments and you're doing virtual games, or whether it is something that's being done on a one-to-one basis, but make sure you have motivation at the top of your agenda alongside communication. And communication is what's going to keep people engaged in this time period. We're going to spend a lot of our time online in virtual conferences, but also, as we say, it's important that you explain and set out the guidelines for when something will be a fun interaction and when something will be a work interaction, and schedule time for both of those so that people can behave in the appropriate manner and have relaxation and communication in those situations as well. It's important that you keep people updated on the situational changes that are happening in the business and in the sector. They will only have their own thoughts and opinions to keep them company, and therefore it's important that you, as the leader and the senior people in the business, are explaining to them where the business is going, how this is impacting the business, and what your plans are for moving forward. It's an ideal opportunity for you to acknowledge the achievements that have been made both by individuals and also teams and the business as a whole, and utilise the technology that we now have in our grasp to be able to deal with a remote working environment in the best way possible as well. Make sure you're also keeping an eye out for events that will happen in the wider community, in the wider environment, the country, that will have an impact on people's well-being and thought process. The news is something that can be informative, but it can also play a real devilish role in terms of how people are thinking. Media is obviously sometimes a bit exaggerated in terms of the whole of the country being impacted in the same way as what a local situation is. So it's important that you keep things very level and very balanced for your people when passing on the communication about how things are affecting people. And so to summarise then, well-being is going to be a really important component, an important factor that you keep at the top of the agenda and keep at the back of your mind of how your teams will be in this environment. Motivating people is having to be done in a very different way, so think and be a bit imaginative about how you can do that in a mobile environment, and keep people engaged through that regular communication, both in fun and in work scenarios, and make sure that you're utilising all of the opportunities you have in order to reach out and communicate with your people. Come on! Look out for this week's final edition of the Brandstand, where we'll be delving deeper into understanding your biggest brand advocates, the ones that are on your payroll. In the meantime though, if you want to attract more customers and then keep them for longer, click the link below to register for our Build a Brand Bootcamp that we'll be running at the end of September. I hope that you'll join me there, and I look forward to picking up in the next exciting episode of the Brandstand.